Disrespect from a woman can shake a man's confidence if he doesn't know how to handle it. Whether it's subtle sarcasm, blatant disregard, or public humiliation, how you respond defines not just her perception of you, but also your self-respect as a man. Modern dating has shifted dramatically, and with it, the way men are expected to navigate these challenges. Today's world rewards men who act with emotional control and firm boundaries, not impulsive reactions or unnecessary aggression. When a woman disrespects you, the wrong move is to lash out or try to earn her respect by explaining yourself. Respect isn't given because you plead for it, it's commanded by how you carry yourself. Women test men, consciously or unconsciously, to gauge their strength, confidence, and composure. A weak response to disrespect signals you're easily shaken, while a strong one sets the tone for how she treats you going forward. This video will teach you how to respond to disrespect in a way that asserts your value and sets a standard for how others, not just women, should treat you. You'll learn how to recognize the signs of disrespect, remain composed under pressure, and implement tactics that turn the tables without losing your dignity. Whether it's a romantic partner, a woman you're interested in, or even a stranger, this advice will help you regain control of any situation. Remember, respect starts with you. The way you handle disrespect isn't about changing her behavior directly, it's about showing through your actions that you won't tolerate it. Let's break this down step by step so you can handle disrespect with strength, precision, and the confidence of a man who knows his worth. 1. Recognize and acknowledge the disrespect. The first step in dealing with disrespect is to identify it clearly. Many men fail here because they dismiss subtle forms of disrespect as unimportant or overthink the situation, doubting their instincts. Disrespect can manifest in many ways: mocking your opinions, interrupting you, dismissing your achievements, or undermining you in front of others. Recognizing it is crucial because tolerating even minor disrespect sets a precedent that invites further boundary pushing. Start by paying attention to patterns, not isolated incidents. Everyone has bad days, but if her words or actions consistently show a lack of regard for you, it's a sign of a deeper issue. For instance, does she cut you off mid-sentence to dominate the conversation? Does she roll her eyes when you speak or make sarcastic remarks about your decisions? These aren't harmless quirks. They're indicators of how she views you. Ignoring such signs only enables her behavior. Once you've identified the disrespect, avoid jumping into reactive mode. Losing your temper or demanding an explanation immediately gives her the upper hand. Women expect men to be emotionally controlled, even under provocation. A composed man doesn't let another person dictate his emotional state. Instead of reacting impulsively, let the disrespect register in your mind without responding immediately. This not only gives you time to assess the situation, but also communicates that you won't be baited into an emotional outburst. Now, acknowledge the disrespect silently to yourself and evaluate whether it was intentional or unintentional. Context matters. Was it a genuine mistake, or is she deliberately testing you? This distinction influences how you proceed. If it's accidental, a simple clarification might suffice. But if it's intentional, you must address it with a firm, strategic response. For example, imagine she makes a sarcastic comment about your ambitions in front of others. Instead of retaliating or laughing it off awkwardly, pause and maintain a calm demeanor. Silence can be powerful because it creates tension and signals that you're not afraid to address the issue when the time is right. This controlled reaction lets her know she crossed a line without you saying a word. Remember, your focus at this stage isn't to confront her directly, it's to recognize and process what's happening while staying calm. This puts you in control of the dynamic and allows you to decide your next move with a clear head. When you remain unshaken in the face of disrespect, you start to demonstrate the strength that commands respect. 2. Set boundaries. Without explaining yourself. Once you've recognized disrespect, the next step is to set clear boundaries. Boundaries are not negotiable. They're a reflection of your standards and self-respect. Without them, disrespectful behavior will persist and escalate. A woman needs to see that you know where your line is and that you're willing to defend it. The key is to communicate these boundaries firmly and succinctly without over-explaining yourself. Men often make the mistake of justifying their boundaries, thinking they need to explain why something is unacceptable. This weakens your stance. A confident man doesn't ask for permission to enforce respect. He states his position clearly and lets his actions back it up. The less you explain, the more powerful your boundary becomes. For example, if a woman interrupts you repeatedly during a conversation or dismisses your input, don't tolerate it. Instead of trying to convince her to see your perspective, calmly say, "I'm speaking right now," and pause until you have the floor again. Your tone matters here. It should be composed, not aggressive. This approach subtly communicates that you won't allow her to devalue your words. In another situation, if she belittles you in public, there's no need to defend yourself at that moment. A simple, firm response like, "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way," is enough. Then, disengage. Don't argue or explain further. Your actions speak louder than words, and by walking away or changing the subject, you demonstrate that you won't engage with someone who disrespects you. It's crucial to follow through on your boundaries. If you state that certain behavior is unacceptable but allow it to continue without consequence, your words lose weight. Boundaries aren't just statements, they're actions. If she mocks you after you've already addressed it, don't argue. Simply remove yourself from the situation or reduce your engagement with her. Let her feel the consequences of crossing your boundaries. One of the most effective tools in boundary setting is your time and attention. When a woman sees that disrespect leads to her losing access to you, she'll be forced to reconsider her behavior. For example, if she keeps testing your patience after you've addressed it, stop responding to her calls or messages for a while. Silence is a strong boundary. It signals that her actions have consequences without needing lengthy explanations. Boundary setting also involves knowing your worth. A woman's opinion of you doesn't define your value. When you internalize this truth, you'll find it easier to enforce boundaries without hesitation. Respect is earned when you demonstrate that you respect yourself enough not to tolerate being treated poorly. Ultimately, boundaries create a standard for how you expect to be treated. When you establish them confidently and without explanation, you communicate strength and self-respect. A woman may push back initially, but if you stay consistent, she will adjust her behavior or lose access to you entirely. Either way, you win. 3. Maintain emotional control. When a woman disrespects you, your ability to remain calm and composed is one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. Emotional control not only keeps you from making rash decisions, but also sends a clear message. You're not easily rattled. Many men fall into the trap of reacting emotionally, whether it's through anger, defensiveness, or sulking. These responses signal insecurity and hand her control of the situation. A man who can manage his emotions projects strength, and strength commands respect. Women often test men to see how they handle pressure. This isn't always a conscious action, but it's instinctual. If you respond by losing your temper or raising your voice, you're showing her that she can disrupt your equilibrium. On the other hand, if you stay calm, she'll see that you're in control of yourself and, by extension, the situation. Maintaining emotional control starts with mastering the pause. When you feel the urge to respond impulsively, stop and take a breath. A moment of silence before you speak or act gives you time to gather your thoughts and prevents you from saying or doing something you'll regret. For instance, if she makes a cutting remark, don't immediately snap back or defend yourself. Pause, look her in the eye, and let the silence linger. This not only shows restraint, but also shifts the tension back to her, making her reconsider her actions. Another critical aspect of emotional control is not internalizing her disrespect. Her words or actions reflect her state of mind, not your value as a man. When you understand this, it becomes easier to stay detached and focus on your response rather than her behavior. A disrespectful comment doesn't diminish you unless you allow it to. By keeping a clear head, you retain control of how the situation unfolds. Emotional control also involves choosing your battles wisely. Not every instance of disrespect requires immediate confrontation. For example, if she makes a sarcastic comment in passing, it might be more strategic to address it later in a private setting rather than escalating it in the moment. This approach shows maturity and ensures that your response has the maximum impact. It's also important to monitor your body language during these moments. Even if you're silent, your posture, eye contact, and facial expressions can communicate confidence or weakness. Stand tall, maintain steady eye contact, and avoid nervous gestures like fidgeting or crossing your arms. Your nonverbal cues should align with the composed image you're projecting. Lastly, emotional control is about resilience. If you let one instance of disrespect ruin your mood or shake your confidence for the rest of the day, you're giving her too much power. Learn to compartmentalize, address the issue, then move on without dwelling on it. This mindset not only keeps you grounded but also demonstrates that your sense of self-worth isn't tied to external validation. When you maintain emotional control, you make it clear that you're the one steering the interaction. This steadiness not only neutralizes disrespect, but often earns you the respect you deserve. 4. Respond with strength, not aggression. When addressing disrespect, strength and aggression are often confused. A man who responds with unnecessary anger or hostility loses control and lowers himself to the level of the person disrespecting him. True strength isn't loud. It's calm, deliberate, and unwavering. Responding with strength means standing your ground and asserting your value without resorting to insults, shouting, or emotional outbursts. Strength starts with confidence in your response. If you've already set boundaries and maintained emotional control, the next step is addressing the behavior in a way that reinforces your position. When you respond, use clear, firm language that leaves no room for misinterpretation. For instance, if she continues to speak disrespectfully after you've set boundaries, say something like, "I've already told you that I won't accept being spoken to that way. If this continues, I'll remove myself from this conversation." Notice how this statement is direct and non-negotiable, yet devoid of aggression or escalation. One of the most effective ways to project strength is by staying calm under pressure. Women often push boundaries to see if you'll crack. If she raises her voice, rolls her eyes, or tries to provoke you further, don't mirror her behavior. Instead, stay composed and keep your tone steady. A calm man under fire exudes power, while an angry one looks unstable. Remember, composure under disrespect signals that you're in control, not her. Another way to show strength is to remain solutions-focused rather than reactive. Address the disrespect by redirecting the interaction toward productive communication. For example, you could say, "If you want to have a respectful conversation, I'm here for it. Otherwise, I'm not interested in continuing this." This approach sets a clear expectation for how interactions with you will proceed, while giving her an opportunity to adjust her behavior without feeling backed into a corner. Strength also involves knowing when to walk away. If a woman continues to disrespect you after you've clearly addressed it, staying in the situation only diminishes your power. Walking away isn't weak. It's the ultimate assertion of self-respect. It shows that you value yourself enough not to engage with someone who doesn't treat you properly. Whether it's leaving a conversation, declining her calls, or cutting her off entirely, walking away is sometimes the strongest response you can give. Nonverbal communication plays a significant role in responding with strength. Maintain eye contact without glaring, speak with a steady and measured tone, and stand tall with relaxed body language. Even a simple pause before you speak can convey authority. By mastering your physical presence, you ensure that your words carry more weight. Finally, avoid falling into the trap of overcompensating. Some men try to assert strength by becoming overly critical or dominant. This comes across as insecurity, not confidence. True strength doesn't need to overcorrect, it simply stands firm. When you respond with controlled strength, you create an atmosphere where respect is not just demanded but naturally given. Women respect men who can calmly assert their value without losing control or resorting to aggression. 5. Use silence as a weapon. Silence is one of the most underrated yet powerful tools a man can use when dealing with disrespect. Most men feel the need to fill uncomfortable moments with words, thinking they must explain, argue, or defend themselves to resolve the issue. In reality, silence is often far more effective. When a woman disrespects you, knowing when to stay quiet can shift the entire dynamic in your favor. Silence creates space for her to reflect on her behavior. Disrespectful people often expect a reaction, whether it's anger, defensiveness, or pleading. When you don't respond the way she expects, it disrupts her pattern and forces her to confront her own actions. For example, if she makes a snide remark or tries to provoke you, instead of snapping back or defending yourself, simply look at her with a calm, steady gaze and say nothing. This unexpected response puts the focus back on her, often making her feel uncomfortable about what she just said. Silence also communicates control. The person who speaks less often holds more power in a conversation. By choosing not to respond immediately, you show that you're not emotionally reactive and that you're in charge of how the interaction unfolds. This demonstrates strength and self-assurance, qualities that naturally command respect. For instance, if she raises her voice or starts an argument, maintaining your composure and staying silent can de-escalate the situation while also showing that you won't engage in petty behavior. Timing is critical when using silence. It's not about ignoring her entirely, but rather choosing strategic moments to stay quiet. For example, after you've addressed her behavior and she tries to argue or justify herself, silence can signal that the conversation is over. Letting her words hang in the air without a response sends a clear message. You've said what you needed to say and you're not interested in debating further. Silence can also be paired with action to reinforce your boundaries. If she continues to disrespect you after you've addressed it, respond with your actions instead of words. Stop engaging with her, limit your availability, or remove yourself from the environment altogether. This approach shows that you won't tolerate disrespect, and you don't need to argue or explain why. Your silence becomes a consequence that speaks volumes. However, silence should be used intentionally, not passively. It's not about avoiding conflict or retreating, but about choosing when and how to respond. A man who uses silence wisely knows that it's a tactical move, not a sign of weakness. He controls the narrative by refusing to be drawn into unnecessary drama. Finally, silence protects your energy. Engaging in pointless arguments or defending yourself against disrespect drains your time and focus. By staying silent, you preserve your mental and emotional resources, keeping yourself in a position of strength. When used effectively, silence is a weapon that can neutralize disrespect and leave a lasting impression. Women, and anyone else, will think twice before disrespecting a man who masters the power of silence. 6. Leverage scarcity to reclaim power. When a woman disrespects you, one of the most effective ways to respond is by making yourself less available. Scarcity creates value, and if you're always accessible, she may take your presence for granted. By pulling back your time and attention, you send a clear message. Disrespect leads to distance. This tactic not only asserts your self-worth, but also forces her to re-evaluate how she treats you. Women often disrespect men they believe they've already figured out or taken for granted. If you're constantly chasing her, initiating conversations, or making yourself too available, you inadvertently lower your perceived value. The moment she senses you're always around no matter how she behaves, she'll feel entitled to test boundaries without fear of consequences. This is why leveraging scarcity is crucial. It shifts the dynamic in your favor and re-establishes your value. To execute this effectively, start by reducing the energy and attention you give her. For example, if she's disrespectful during a conversation, don't argue or plead for respect. Instead, disengage. Say something brief like, "Let's continue this when you're ready to be respectful," and walk away. Then, let her feel your absence. Whether it's through reduced texting, fewer calls, or declining to meet up, your withdrawal sends a powerful signal that you won't tolerate being treated poorly. This approach works because it creates a psychological shift. People often don't value something until it's no longer easily available. When you pull back, it interrupts her pattern of behavior and forces her to confront the reality of losing your presence. She may initially try to provoke you further to regain control, but staying firm in your scarcity amplifies its effect. Don't cave to emotional outbursts or attempts to guilt you into re-engaging. Your actions should convey that disrespect has consequences. While leveraging scarcity, it's important to remain composed and purposeful. Don't announce your withdrawal dramatically or frame it as a punishment. Instead, carry yourself with quiet confidence. Simply step back and focus on yourself, your goals, hobbies, and personal growth. This not only shows her that you're serious about respecting yourself, but also improves your value in her eyes. A man who prioritizes his life over chasing validation becomes far more attractive and commands greater respect. At the same time, scarcity must be balanced with clarity. If she doesn't understand why you're pulling back, she might misinterpret your behavior as indifference or cowardice. Before stepping away, address her actions directly and calmly. For example, say, "I don't feel respected when you speak to me that way. Until that changes, I'll be focusing on other things." This gives her a clear reason for your withdrawal and an opportunity to correct her behavior. Scarcity works because it creates tension and intrigue. A woman who disrespects you often expects a reaction, but your calm withdrawal flips the script. It makes her question her actions and seek ways to regain your attention. By mastering this strategy, you demonstrate your value without needing to explain or defend it. Scarcity isn't about playing games. It's about showing her that your time and respect are privileges, not guarantees. 7. Be willing to walk away. The ultimate response to persistent disrespect is being willing to walk away, permanently if necessary. This isn't a bluff or a tactic, it's a reflection of your self-respect and a non-negotiable standard. Many men struggle with this because they fear losing the woman or worry about being alone. However, the ability to walk away is the foundation of true masculine strength and confidence. It communicates that you value yourself above any relationship and won't tolerate being treated poorly. When a woman knows you're willing to leave, she immediately understands that disrespect will not be ignored or accepted. This isn't about manipulation, it's about setting a clear standard. A man who clings to a disrespectful woman sends a message that he values her approval more than his own dignity. On the other hand, a man who can leave a situation that doesn't align with his principles shows he has options and will not settle for less than what he deserves. Walking away starts with recognizing patterns of behavior. Everyone can slip up occasionally, but if disrespect becomes a recurring theme despite your efforts to address it, it's time to act. Don't waste energy trying to fix someone who refuses to change or respect you. Continuing to invest in such a dynamic only erodes your self-esteem and sets a precedent for tolerating poor treatment. The decision to walk away should be made with clarity and purpose. This means avoiding dramatic exits or heated confrontations. Instead, calmly state your position. For example, say, "I don't feel respected in this relationship, and that's something I won't compromise on. I think it's best we go our separate ways." Deliver this with confidence, and then follow through without looking back. Walking away also requires emotional detachment. It's natural to feel hurt or second-guess your decision, especially if you have strong feelings for her. However, remind yourself that staying in a disrespectful relationship does more damage than leaving. Surround yourself with supportive friends, focus on your personal goals, and channel your energy into building the life you want. Over time, you'll realize that walking away wasn't a loss. It was an act of self-preservation. This principle applies whether you're casually dating, in a committed relationship, or even married. Disrespect doesn't diminish over time. It grows. If you let it slide once, you're setting a precedent that it's acceptable. The earlier you establish that disrespect is a deal breaker, the easier it is to maintain your standards. Women respect men who have the strength to walk away. Even if she doesn't admit it, your willingness to leave will make her reconsider her behavior, not just with you, but in all her relationships. It sets an example that you won't compromise on your values. Ultimately, walking away is about prioritizing yourself and ensuring that anyone who shares your life is someone who respects and values you. True respect is non-negotiable, and a man who understands this will never settle for less. Disrespect is a line no man should ever tolerate. By setting clear boundaries, maintaining emotional control, and responding with strength and composure, you establish yourself as a man who commands respect. Leverage silence, use scarcity, and, if necessary, be prepared to walk away to show that your self-worth is non-negotiable. A man who values himself teaches others how to treat him. Remember, respect starts with you. If you demand it and live by your principles, others will follow. The power lies in your ability to stay firm, unwavering, and true to the standards you've set for yourself. I hope you've benefited from this video. Comment your experiences below. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.